What is up, you amazing people? It's Nima here, and today I got a couple games I want to talk about. Now, I haven't played them to the end or even that far in one of them, but I wanted to take the opportunity to make this video because I will be traveling. Now, luckily, I'm bringing you guys with me. That's right, I'm bringing the computer, the mic, all that stuff, so I'll be able to make videos while I'm on the road, but I don't know when that first video is going to come out. So I'm actually recording this almost right before we're leaving, and I'm just gonna have to edit while I'm traveling and whatever, you don't care. The point is, I want to talk about this game called Conscript, which is amazing. It is like a horror game that takes place in World War One, and it has like the tanky controls that we loved from like the old school Resident Evil, highly detailed and just really impressive pixel art. Also, the soundtrack is just phenomenal. So the actual music that goes along with the game sounds really good, and it fits the game perfectly, but for me, it was all the sound effects. It was the soldiers who were like screaming, it was the bombs and air raids, it was things like that that really made the game just feel a lot more lifelike and honestly brought the horror aspect out of it. And I know I said the game is a survival horror, and I know that the first thing you're thinking of is zombies or monsters or something like that, but really, it just captures the horror that is a world war. Men sacrificing their lives for just a mound of dirt that we would probably end up just throwing trash on anyway. And of course, in this war, being at 1916, I mean, the barbarism of the weapons used back then are at a whole new level. One of your main weapons is a shovel. Like, you do get different guns, but ammo's limited. And while melee weapons will break as well, after a set amount of time, they're just quicker to use and they're more plentiful. You can find them just more often while you're roaming around looking for the next option, your next path forward. Then honestly, like I said, it seems to be melee combat that is more successful in this game. Yes, you can get to a point where your weapon attacks are really plentiful, but it's just like I said, with the ammo and trying to conserve that. Also with guns like the rifle, you have to clear the chamber, which that feels like it's taking another shot. Then you can bring the gun up and try to shoot again. All of this takes quite a bit of time, and a lot of the enemies themselves, they don't even have guns, so they're chasing you with like a bat with barbed wire around it. And you're in the trenches, you're in very tight spaces. So a lot of times guns just don't work the same. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a highly armored enemy after you and you got a pump shotgun. Yeah, you're going for the pump action shotgun. Don't get me wrong. My point is, though, is more than not, you are kind of roaming around in some very dark, desolated areas with nothing more than just a little bit of light in front of you. And who you run into could either be an enemy or a rat, which rats are a big problem in this game. Either or, it's better to just have something quicker to use instead of worrying about your gun. And to really add to the melee combat, there's also a sprint button and a dodge roll. Now, both are relatively important, the sprint being more important than I thought. As I said, a lot of attacks take a little bit of time to ramp up and to really hit home, so it's better to kind of run away from the enemy and then start focusing up your attack. It just seems like a better tactic many times because you're outnumbered. It's usually you versus 2 to 3 soldiers, and so you're constantly like moving and trying to hit them at the right way. Again, think about those old school Resident Evil games. But yeah, there's so much more here, and yet there's also less. One of the things that there is less of is health. You every now and then will stumble upon either some like health vials, which are usually consumable and you can only find them in like medical areas, or you'll get a first aid kit here or there. But that's really about it. It's not something you come across a lot, which is kind of an issue, especially if you're someone like me who at least wants to have one set aside. You want a little something in case you run into some trouble, but many times you have to get comfortable just going out there without any of that. Not to mention, just like the old Resident Evils and a lot of games like that, management. Storage management is an issue. You can only carry so many items, so you need to know where your item chest is at, and usually that's in a save room. And often as you're exploring this stark, hopeless world, you find many items that you have to use later. Things that are a part of a puzzle that maybe you haven't even found yet, or half of a solution. Maybe a piece of a wire cutter, but you still need the other side of the wire cutter to actually be able to use it. So taking a lot of mental notes really helps because you're going to have to go back and forth between that item chest and the puzzle or the area that you're currently working on. Now, I wanted to touch back briefly on something when I was talking about the enemies and the rats. So you can actually get infected by the rats, which is another thing to be cautious of. And the easiest way to take the rats out usually is with a shovel or with a grenade in their rat hole, but they will show up quite often, especially after a fight. Like after you've recently taken down an enemy, the rats will show up, and they're almost, if not more of a problem than the enemy themselves. It's just another layer in this game that I think really exemplifies the horror that was World War One. I also think they do a really good job of tying that in as a personal experience, because you play as a French soldier who is actually deployed with your brother, and you're looking for your brother for, I don't know, the early part of the game. And that sort of interpersonal connection is what motivates the character to keep going, and it becomes the driving force of the game. Now, you do find him relatively early on, but then, well, you kind of lose him, and you gotta go find him again. And honestly, that's all the story really needs. It's just a really good motivation, a little personal tie-in with the main character and why it's important, and that's really about it. Another thing I do have to praise this game on is the item shop, which can usually be found in the save places where you can find the item storage or item chest. But when you come across the item shop, it's basically the same dude from Resident Evil 4, you know, that like, what you buying guy. Like, essentially same thing, except for he's in a gas mask, but he has almost the exact same line. The only problem with this dude is he doesn't have medical supplies. Most of everything that he has is not a first aid kit, which is usually the thing I would want to buy. Now, by the way, your currency in this game is cigarettes, which honestly is kind of funny to me because the guy wearing the gas mask all the time is the guy who wants to trade for cigarettes. I don't know, I just find that really funny. So my thoughts on this game, at about 80% complete, are a 9 out of 10. That's how much I really enjoy the game. It's also about $20, so it's not a bad price. And as far as I'm aware, it's a little over 10 hours. So I'm at about hour 8, 8.5, something like that. And I can see where it's starting to kind of maybe wind down. But honestly, I've just really enjoyed this one. And that's my thoughts. If that changes, I'll do like a different video on it, a full review or something. But as it stands right now, definitely a 9 out of 10. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is another game I was playing, but this one is free, and it's called the new Denpa Men, and it's actually very much a traditional RPG dungeon crawler, but with a lot of different mechanics and some new things added in. Namely, like catching the Denpa is part of the game, and this is before you actually head out. You see, when you go to explore these different dungeons and stuff, you need to take a team with you, and you have to catch them, and there can be rare ones, super rare ones. They all have like the faces of the Mii's, which is really weird, and yeah, the whole aesthetic of this game is kind of odd, but it's also really fun. I found myself really enjoying it. I've only played about an hour, maybe 2. I've gotten through like the first 3 treasure hunts, and while I've been playing, I'm thinking like this is a pretty fun game. I haven't seen them pull the rug out for me yet and start charging me things, because it is a free game, and I am curious when that happens and how much they're going to actually try to pull from you. But as it stands right now, it's actually really fun. I haven't experienced a lot of things in the game, but I just thought I would talk about that briefly because it's been out for a minute and like no one's talked about it. But for what it is, it's a good experience, and I mean, it's worth a shot. It's free. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about those 2 games, but like I said, I'll still be releasing videos, and I'm going to be recording while on vacation, so we'll see how it all sounds. Hopefully everything is fine, and I'm just a little trepidatious because I won't be bringing most of like my audio equipment that I use. I'll be using one of those little mics, you know, the trendy people use when they do like a video survey kind of thing. So I'll be curious how that sounds different. But anyway, I will see you guys soon. Take care, everyone. Love y'all. Bye-bye.